Welcome to The Needle, your Division I college basketball podcast. I'm Jack Williams, owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. On this podcast, we will present to you weekly conversations on D1 college basketball coaches and their teams. Don't forget to go right now on your computer, phone, or tablet and follow us on Twitter. This episode of The Needle is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for Division I college basketball coaches.
Thank you for tuning into our 20th episode of The Needle. Again, my name is Jack Williams, owner and operator of D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and predictions. D1 Coach Corner is the number one source for college basketball preseason predictions and college basketball coach evaluations. The Needle College Basketball Podcast will bring to you 52 weeks of college basketball talks on topics dealing with Division I college basketball coaches and their teams. In this episode of The Needle, we will be discussing the SEC new hires, and then we will get into some coaching news and tad bits, and then our coaching changes segment of the show. We will also bring to you our new Coach Impact segment, which will highlight coaches who have recently taken over a team and has positively impacted that team as a result of him being there. So far, we're going to have 4 new coaches to start the 2019-2020 season in the SEC. Arkansas fired Coach Mike Anderson, who has coached the team for 7 seasons. Alabama fired Coach Avery Johnson after just 4 seasons. Texas A&M fired Billy Kennedy, even though I thought that Billy Kennedy had some fire left in him. And Vanderbilt fired Bryce Drew after just 3 seasons. That's one that's understandable. But before we get into our new coaches, let's look at the old coaches and discuss why they were fired, starting with Arkansas's Mike Anderson. Now, I don't think that Coach Anderson was a bad coach at all. He was just a bad recruiter. I mean, here's a guy that was coaching in one of the major 6 conferences in college basketball, but was recruiting like he was coaching a mid-major team. LSU had only one JUCO in its starting lineup, but still nearly its entire lineup consisted of 4 and 5 stars, a good mixture of 3 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and 1 senior as the nucleus of its lineup. At least one of the freshmen, Nas Reed, was a one and done. So that JUCO player, Marlon Taylor, who was from Panola, made sense. He started in 24 games and played in all 35. And he should be returning next season, by the way. But look at Arkansas's Coach Anderson's roster. Out of 13 scholarships, this guy had 7 freshmen on the roster. The highest rating of the 7 freshmen were 4 stars, Isaiah Joe, and Reggie Chaney. The remaining were 3 stars and below. There was absolutely no depth on this team, and in his starting lineup were 3-star players from the previous season. One was reserve player Andrew Bailey, who averaged only 14 minutes in 2017-2018 and averaged 4.1 points and 2.5 rebounds per game. The other was Jalen Harris, who I believe was a red shirt in 2017-2018. The only good thing this team had going for themselves were freshman Isaiah Joe, sophomore Daniel Gafford, and sophomore Mason Jones. Gafford is more than likely going pro, and I'm sure that Coach Eric Musselman is going to get some good quality playing time out of Isaiah Joe and Mason Jones, and I'm sure the majority of the others will be asked to transfer. But the point I'm trying to make is that roster looked like a mid-major roster in a growing SEC. Now, he may have been able to pull it off prior to the SEC growing over the last 3 years. The only other roster that looked sort of like Arkansas was Ole Miss, and remember that Coach Andy Kennedy resigned just before he was fired. However, Kermit Davis did a good job with this roster. Unfortunately, they didn't make it into the NCAA tournament. Now, as far as Alabama's Avery Johnson is concerned, statistics shows us that this wasn't a good hire from the first place. So far, good to great NBA players statistically don't make good Division I basketball coaches. I was really rooting for the 2017-2018 team that had Colin Sexton, Braxton Key, Dante Hall, John Petty, and so on, and had this team picked to finish second in the SEC that season. But instead, they finished in 9th place and in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Often when I watch this team play, it seems as if they had no order. They were out of control. It felt like an NBA team where majority of the plays run through the star player. Colin Sexton scored a lot, but he was also taking a heap of bad shots. But like I said before, I thought that Billy Kennedy may have had some fire left in him. But now that I look at it, I understand more about why he was fired. First of all, Billy Kennedy was very inconsistent with getting Texas A&M to the NCAA tournament, but he led the team to the Sweet 16 2 times out of the last 4 years. But now they're about to get a more consistent coach in Coach Buzz Williams. Now let's stay on the topic of Vanderbilt while we look at the new coaches. Why did Vanderbilt go out and hire a coach that statistically shows that his chances of doing well are slim? An NBA star with no Division I head coaching experience. There hasn't been one success story for an NBA star turned head coach. Not one so far. Statistically, not a good hire. Chris Mullin just resigned his position at St. John. So what do you have left? Dan Marley, Penny Hardaway, and Patrick Ewing. The verdict is still out on all three of these coaches. Now, I like the Eric Musselman to Arkansas hire, however. He's a good recruiter who has proven to be consistent in leading the team to the NCAA tournament. Nevada dominated the Mountain West under his leadership. After Daniel Gafford leaves, Arkansas will have only one scholarship available, however. Arkansas needs depth in the front court. But in order to do that, Musselman is going to have to clear up some scholarships and bring in a couple of immediately eligible players through transfer, leaving Isaiah Joe, Mason Jones, Jalen Harris, Adrio Bailey, Reggie Chaney, and Desi Seals as the core pieces. Alabama's Nate Oats has immediately started on recruiting within. He convinced John Petty and the top-scoring freshman guard, Kyra Lewis Jr., to stay on board. He also recruited Raymond Hawkins, a big man from Findlay Prep, to come over with him. Hawkins was originally slated to go to Buffalo to play for Nate Oats. I think that this is going to be a very good Alabama team next season. Coach Nate Oats' hire was a good one for Alabama. As far as Texas A&M is concerned, Coach Buzz Williams is a consistent coach. He's from Texas, and he was once an assistant coach there in 2004 until 2006 under Coach Bill Gillespie. This was one of the best hires of the postseason. Coach Williams is really going to have this team competitive. I don't know what his roster is going to look like in 2019-2020, but I believe he should have 4 scholarships remaining to fill. I tell you what, they're going to need a backup point guards, some better point guards, period. Texas A&M ranked 304th in the nation and 11th in the SEC this season in assist-to-turnover ratio. Now on to a guy who has never had to recruit players to a team. First-time Division I head coach Jerry Stackhouse is going to have a lot of roster to fill. He should have 6 scholarship players returning next season. Freshman Aaron Nesmith, sophomore Max Evans, Saban Lee, Matthew Moyer, Ajike Obina, and junior Cleavon Brown. I still don't know what Vanderbilt was thinking, however, with this hire. Here you are in a major conference, and the trend around the SEC for new hires are coaches who not only has Division I coaching experience, but also has experience winning in Division I college basketball. But Vanderbilt go out and hire a coach who knows absolutely nothing about running a Division I college basketball team. It's going to be tough for Vanderbilt in the SEC this coming season, and so much for that. Let's look into a few coaching changes for 2019. On April 7, 2019, Coach Eric Musselman leaves Nevada after 4 seasons to take the job at Arkansas. Coach Musselman led Nevada to the NCAA tournament in the last 3 seasons, including the Sweet 16 appearance in 2018. Coach Musselman was replaced by Coach Steve Alford. Coach Steve Alford returns to the Mountain West after leaving New Mexico to take the job at UCLA. Coach Alford should be a good fit for Nevada. Coach Mike Young leaves Wofford after 17 years with the team to take the job at Virginia Tech. On March 9, 2019, Coach Mick Cronin leaves Cincinnati after 13 years with the team. Coach Cronin is a consistent winner and has led Cincinnati to the NCAA tournament 9 times in a row. Coach Chris Mullin stepped down after 4 seasons with St. John's. St. John's only made it to the NCAA tournament once in his 4 seasons. On April 10, 2019, after 4 seasons with the team, Coach Mark Pope left Utah Valley to advance to BYU. Now that concludes the needle movement portion of our show. We will now get into some coaching news and our new Coach Impact segment of the show. This portion of our show is brought to you by D1CoachCorner.com, your source for college basketball news, rankings, and prediction. Once again, don't forget to go follow us on Twitter after the show at D1CoachCorner. Now, before we get into some coaching news, I have a little college basketball tad bit to discuss. The NBA Finals versus the NCAA Basketball Championship. Let's talk about last Monday NCAA championship game. A perfect game for college basketball fans like myself. And no other sports will you find a team that got eliminated in the first round of the NCAA tournament last season win the national championship the following season. In the NBA, you're going to get the same teams going to the finals every year because the teams are so lopsided. To be honest with you, my bracket was terrible this year. I had Duke and North Carolina in the national championship, but instead it was Texas Tech and Virginia. Both Virginia and Texas Tech displayed what their identities were in that game. They were two of the best defensive teams in the nation. When I looked up at the score in the first half, it was 29-32, Virginia with the lead. Then by the end of the game, we had one of the highest scoring games we've had in a long time. This was basketball at its best, not just entertainment. Far better than that NBA mess that we watched today. I heard one columnist complain about the championship game being what he termed generationally unsexy. Why? Because all of the players on the team looked as if they were working hard? Why? Because there was actually defense being played? Or maybe he was trying to say that the game needed Zion Williamson. I agree, a guy who played like he's from the previous generation. I tried to watch an NBA game the other day and I couldn't stomach it. There was a lot of shooting and no defense as usual. I thought the score was going to end up looking like this, 230-180. And then a commercial came on, and what did I see? The NBA pushing political agendas. And I just so happened to look a couple of players up on YouTube that night, and what did I see again? Players pushing political agendas. Whatever happened to the game of basketball? Back in the days, the NBA was a warrior sport. No easy layups, tenacious defense, and great scorers. Today, it just feels like entertainment and political bores. But college basketball is different. You see, in this championship game, there were no real big superstars, which was a good thing and a bad thing. It was a good thing because it showed us that great basketball teams still win championships and not just individuals. It was a bad thing because, unfortunately, every game still needs a superstar for the ratings to be off the charts. Don't get me wrong, the ratings were good, but they would have been out of this world if Zion Williamson would have been in the championship instead of DeAndre Hunter. I'm just saying. And I keep hearing for some reason that there's little reasons to watch regular season college basketball games. But I got news for you. Some people says that about the NBA, but in college, there are plenty of reasons to watch regular season games. As a matter of fact, more than the NBA. You see, in college, the road to the Final Four starts on day one. Strength of schedule is everything. And those athletic directors and coaches who are masters of scheduling knows how to give their fans the best of both worlds, entertainment and competitive games. Bad games are for entertainment, the games where they play bubblegum teams at home. And the entertaining part about it is that sometimes they may end up paying out the wrong bubblegum team and end up getting whooped at home. But in the NBA, you see the same teams over and over again, and the teams are so lopsided. Now for some coaching news. The Air Force Academy agrees to a 3-year extension with Coach Dave Pilipovich. Coach Pilipovich is in his 8th season with the team. LSU meets with Coach Will Wade to discuss a solution to the suspension that Wade received at the end of the season. Coach Will Wade did not participate in the NCAA tournament after it was reported that Wade was caught on wiretap discussing an offer to a recruit with Christian Dawkins. Nebraska's Coach Fred Hoiberg wasted no time bringing in his assistant coaches. Coach Hoiberg hires former Nebraska head coach Doc Sadler, Matt Abanassa, and Bobby Lutz as assistant coaches. Now on to our new Coach Impact segment of the show. In this new Coach Impact segment, we'll be discussing coaches who have been head coaches of a particular Division I basketball team for no more than 5 years and who are on the upward trend towards taking that team to another level. This week's new Coach Impact highlights Coach Nate Oats. Coach Oats is wasting no time putting his Alabama staff together and bringing in quality recruits. Coach Oats brings on Brian Hodges, who have strong recruiting ties out of New York. Hodges spent the last 4 seasons with Coach Oats at Buffalo and was instrumental in the team's success. Coach Oats also brings on former G League head coach Charlie Henry. Coach Henry brings strong recruiting ties out of Michigan. Henry was once assistant coach with Oats at Romulus High School in Michigan. Coach Oats serves as head coach of Romulus High School from 2002 until 2013. And lastly, Coach Oats retains the service of Antoine Petway. Coach Petway has been an assistant at Alabama for over 8 years and has strong recruiting ties in the state of Alabama. Now that concludes our show for this week. Join us next week at the same time and channel for a new episode. We'll be happy to take on your questions and comments on Twitter for our next episode. Our Twitter handle is at D1CoachCorner. That is at D1CoachCorner. See you next week.